Hi, this is the video for interpreting poetic devices for the poem A Time to Talk. You're going to need two things. You need your packet, which is interpreting poetic devices. We should have already completed the front page together in class a few weeks ago. And I did record a video for The World is Not a Pleasant Place to Be on the day that I was absent. However, one cohort, I hopefully was able to do that with you and correct any errors. So the error is the packet didn't get printed correctly, and it's actually a fault in my file. If you notice, the first page has a heading and the second page has a heading, but this back side of the first page is supposed to be the front page of the other. So we ended up writing down the interpreting poetic devices for The World is Not a Pleasant Place to Be on what should have been today's poem. And that was why in the video, if you watched it, I was a little confused about where to put personification because I thought it had a box for it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so the first page we did, actually, I'm gonna go up here. So the very first page, we did this one on the pasture. And then this is actually what the one for The World is Not a Pleasant Place to Be is supposed to look like. We were supposed to have the sound devices, the alliteration, the figurative language should have been personification, punctuation. We talked about how there was no punctuation, and then words or phrases was going to be that repetition. We still filled all that in, so you don't need to change it if you use this paper, which is really the one that is for A Time to Talk, the one we're going to do today. So we have two sound devices and A Time to Talk. We're going to talk about the punctuation and the words or phrases. If you are using this page with me, when we get to this figurative language, we're simply going to fill in the second example of alliteration. And alliteration falls into figurative language. I know you're not all in my classroom all the time, but all of those 8 figurative language terms that we've been doing in our interactive notebooks fall into that. So it's not really a problem in the fact that we filled it out wrong. So I'm going to go down to, it's really the third page. And if you have already filled this third page in, then you're going to use the other page to do the pasture. I'm sorry, A Time to Talk. All right, let's take a look at the poem itself. We'll reread it here. We see A Time to Talk by Robert Frost. When a friend calls to me from the road and slows his horse to a meaning walk, I don't stand still and look around on all the hills I haven't hoed and shout from where I am, "What is it?" No, not as there is a time to talk. I thrust my hoe in the mellow ground, blade end up and 5 feet tall, and plod. I go up to the stone wall for a friendly visit. Now, we are going to go back to our chart. It's a little tricky flipping back and forth here, but we'll put the title of the poem, which is Time to Talk. And then our poet is Robert Frost. Now, sound devices. Remember, we've talked about a few. Rhyme or rhyme scheme is one example of a sound device. We completed that on the worksheet, talking about how there is a rhyme scheme for this poem, but that it was an irregular rhyme. You could choose to put that in this box if you wish to talk about the rhyme scheme. Remember that this is going to be planning for our essay. So you're going to really want to pull out those examples that you think you're going to be able to write about and really explain. So you could put rhyme scheme in here. We also have onomatopoeia and alliteration. Now, our poems, I don't believe, have much onomatopoeia in them. No sound words that we've heard, but there is a lot of alliteration. So let's look back and see what examples. You're going to have to pull at least one example of alliteration, or maybe instead of doing the rhyme and rhyme scheme, you want to pull 2 examples. So take a look for just a minute. I realize we're in a video, so we can't interact, but I'll help you out in a minute. Where is the alliteration? stand still on all the hills I haven't hoed. Time to talk. 5 feet. Okay. So you have a few choices there. I would highly encourage you to do time to talk, because obviously that's the title and it's another part within there. So, oh, actually, before I go back to that, how do I get, sorry. Before I want to check the line number. So time to talk is line 6. Okay. So the sound device is alliteration. It's line 6, and it's no, not, as there is a time to talk. This is also the title. Okay, now remember that last box, I'm not going to do it for you. This is your explanation. What does it represent? What is the importance of this line? And you're explaining that meaning of a time to talk. That's your thoughts here. So pause the video while you need to do that. Also take a moment to fill in the second sound device. Decide if you want to go back and use one of those other examples of alliteration, all the hills I haven't hoed, or stand still. And remember, those are the things that he hasn't done, but he's emphasizing those, or if you're going to do the rhyme or rhyme scheme. Pause the video, fill it out. When you come back, we're going to take a look at the poem for punctuation and words or phrases. So this poem does have punctuation. There are some lines where we see that there is not punctuation at the end, so we should continue reading. But most of we see commas at the end of most of them, or in sometimes periods, meaning we need to pause or stop. And then also we have the question mark. Some typical punctuation. This no comma, that's a proper use of a comma. So he's not really inventing ways to use punctuation, but here's one that stands out. And plod, colon. It's not a typical way to use a colon, but it definitely points it out. We're going to pause, emphasize on that idea of he's going to walk kind of slowly up to the stone wall. I would personally choose the colon, but you could certainly use the question mark, the commas, and explain those if you wish, but I would use that colon. So back on the chart, down here for punctuation, and you can simply just put the symbol there. And I forgot the line number. Oh, flipping back and forth, back and forth. It is line 9. And I'm going to say, and plod, colon. I could continue the line too. And then on this end part, why do you think you put that in there? What does it mean? What can it represent? Take a moment to fill that in on your own. Now the words and phrases box, I'm not going to tell you what I would put in there. This is up to you. What words or phrases in the poem stand out to you? What is something that you think helps you understand what the poet's meaning is? The last time in the World is Not a Pleasant Place to Be, we use repetition, which really counts as another sound device. There isn't a lot of repetition in here though. You can pick any image that stands out to you, anything that he says in here that you think helps get the meaning across. Maybe you just want to say something about for a friendly visit. Pick something that you think is important to the poem that you want to explain, especially helping explain the meaning. And then the last thing you need to do, the main message or theme of the poem is you're going to finish that sentence. What is the message that the author is trying to get across in this poem? What is something that we can take away and learn from this, not just summarizing what it is or giving us the topic? So it's kind of like that moral of the story is there's always time for friends, maybe, or it's important to Spend time with people, not just your work. Don't put everything into your work. Anything you want to put in there. There's lots of options as long as you can support it with reasons from the poem. All right, so you finish this part of the chart. There'll be another video for to you, and make sure that you finish the entire packet before the next time I see you. Bye-bye.